On Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
We turn now to Puerto Rico, where United Nations experts are warning of alarming conditions now more than 5 weeks after Hurricane Maria. In a report released Monday, UN experts also condemned the United States' handling of the disaster, saying the response was ineffective and that the mainland states of Florida and Texas had received far more support after being struck by hurricanes than Puerto Rico did. Lailani Farha, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Housing, said, quote, "We can't fail to note the dissimilar urgency and priority given to the emergency response in Puerto Rico compared to the United States, to the U.S. states affected by hurricanes in recent months."
This comes as the Wall Street Journal is reporting the FBI is investigating the $300 million contract between Puerto Rico's electrical power company known as PREPA and the tiny Montana-based company Whitefish, which is linked to Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke. I mean, that's his hometown. On Sunday, under enormous pressure, Puerto Rico's governor, Ricardo Rosselló, instructed Puerto Rico's power company to cancel the controversial contract with Whitefish Energy. Well, we were there in Puerto Rico when that was announced. But our first stop on Friday afternoon was the Roberto Clemente Coliseum, where the San Juan mayor, Carmen Yulín Cruz, and her vice mayor, Rafael Jaume, were analyzing the details of two contracts. Yes, the $300 million deal with Whitefish, and another $200 million contract between the power company and Cobra, which is an Oklahoma-based company. Now, we had actually come into the Roberto Clemente Coliseum because there had been a news conference that the San Juan mayor held with Bernie Sanders, who had come into town for a few hours to express solidarity with the mayor and the people of Puerto Rico. And afterwards, I got to sit down with the San Juan mayor. But just as we finished this interview, the vice mayor came in with the contracts and all of the caveats, and they were just shocked. So you just got a hold of the both the Whitefish contract
and the Cobra contract, both of them this morning we got.
$300 million contract for Whitefish, $200 million for Cobra, an Oklahoma-based company. And this is FEMA's statement from this morning.
FEMA's statement on this morning says clearly, the decision to award a contract to Whitefield Energy was made exclusively by Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority, PREPA. FEMA was not involved in the selection. Questions regarding the awarding of this contract should be directed to PREPA. Following says, any language in any contract between PREPA and Whitefish that states FEMA approved that contract is inaccurate. Strong words. What about, I'll tell you this one.
And this is a part of the contract.
Article 59 in Whitefish contract. It says, in the event shall PREPA.
In no event.
In no event shall PREPA, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, the FEMA administration, the Comptroller General of the United States, or any of their authorized representative have the right to audit or review the cost and profit elements of the labor rates specified herein. That is, you can read it by yourself. That's it. There's no other thing that's black and white.
And this?
And this one says, this is Article 68, penalties, fines, and disallowed costs.
Disallowed costs.
Disallowed costs. By executing this contract, PREPA hereby represents and warrants that FEMA has reviewed and approved of this contract and confirmed that the contract is in acceptable form to qualify for funding from FEMA and other U.S. government agencies. Totally the opposite. In contrast, what FEMA is saying.
You know what that means? That means that right there, that contract is null and void.
Yes.
It contradicts the laws of the United States of America, and it should be voided right now by the Puerto Rican government. And if the Puerto Rican government does not have the nerve to do what they have to do in order to do things right, then the U.S. government should do it. Because what this means is that we will not get reimbursed for a $300 million contract awarded to a two-employee company that did not have the expertise nor business getting into this business.
FEMA says PREPA wholly approved this.
Yes.
PREPA, of course, is the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority. Did PREPA approve this?
PREPA approved it. I have asked for, actually, the director of PREPA signed it. I have asked for PREPA to release the minutes of the meeting where this was discussed, but certainly FEMA did not approve this. That means we are not going to get reimbursed by this. And by declaring that, in fact, FEMA approved it, they were lying when they signed the contract.
The head of PREPA was lying.
Both parties. Both parties. Because if I was getting a $300 million contract based on the fact that I would get reimbursed by FEMA, I would have liked that in writing. Amounts much less than that, and decisions much less than that. I've said no until I have it in writing. So that is null and void right there. Right there. There is nothing. You cannot tell a governmental entity that you cannot audit a contract, that you have no right to request a time frame, and you cannot represent things that are not true in contracts. That is just basics of contract law. So this right here, it's null and void.
So you want this, do you want the Whitefish contract nullified?
It should be nullified. It is scandalous. It is an affront on our people. And frankly, again, when I called for this 2 days ago, their response from the Whitefish Twitter was threatening to take away the 44 men and women, I don't know if they have women working, they said men, and 40 more that were coming that day. So they have 84 people working in San Juan, which is the largest city in Puerto Rico. Not only that, now I would want to know, what is the work plan? Well, they don't have to have a work plan. You know why? Because in the contract it states that they don't have to finish anytime soon. So this is a gift of $300 million to two people. That's what this amounts to.
Do you think the head of PREPA should be fired?
Yes. He should have been fired a long time ago. A long time ago. What is beyond me is why the governor continues to say that this man has his support.
And the head of PREPA is?
Ricardo Ramos. Very, 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 very ineffective, very inappropriate, and frankly, somebody that doesn't even know what he's signing.
And the other contract, this is a $300 million contract, then there's a $200 million
with Cobra,
what's called Cobra contract?
That one, I haven't had a chance to look at it. We got it this morning. We went to the comptroller's office.
This also signed by the head of PREPA?
Yes, also signed by the head of PREPA. So it's very interesting because when you look at these contracts, they're already, some of them, I don't know if it's, I think it's this one already has addendums to it. They have already been changes. They've already been changes. You haven't even started.
These are the rates per hours, $400, $500 per hour.
No, Cobra is an Oklahoma-based contract. I don't know if there's any relationship between Scott Pruitt, who's the former Oklahoma Attorney General and now the head of the Environmental Protection Agency.
I don't know either. But what I do know is that 2 and 3 is 5, and there's $500 million in here, one of which is utterly null and void, and it's, you know, very difficult to understand that in the United States, contractual law would allow one of the parties to be taken for a ride, because this is, this PREPA contract is so odious and so not good for the Puerto Rican people.
You're holding the Whitefish contract.
Yes, yes. And not only that, look, it was signed October 17th. I had the page this morning, October 17th. This is a $300 million contract. I hope to God that it has a lot more than these little tiny pages that we have here. because it's unnerving. It truly is unnerving, you know, that people can just swindle an entire population when they are at its most vulnerable.
So that's San Juan's mayor, Carmen Yulín Cruz, and San Juan's vice mayor, Rafael Jaume. We were in the Roberto Clemente Coliseum, where the entire mayor's staff is staying. It has electricity. Most of Puerto Rico, the overwhelming population of Puerto Rico, does not have it. It was the room in which she had just had her news conference with Senator Bernie Sanders and union leaders decrying what was happening right now in Puerto Rico and the U.S. government's response. But they're standing there, just having gotten the actual paper contracts of both Whitefish Energy, the $300 million contract that was signed by Ricardo Ramos, who is head of PREPA, the Puerto Rican power authority, the largest public power authority in the United States, and the Cobra contract, which isn't talked about as much, the Cobra contract to Oklahoma-based company for $200 million. Juan, you've been following this very closely.
Well, Amy, yes, I raised a couple of weeks ago this whole issue of this Whitefish contract, and the problem is that the pillaging of Puerto Rico is still continuing, even in the midst of this enormous crisis. Not only is this contract with Whitefish indefensible, the rates that they were paying private contractors, essentially, to do work that Puerto Rico electrical workers could be doing, or that electrical workers from other parts of the United States could be doing from utilities. But there was pillaging going on beforehand. Most people are not aware. This guy, Ricardo Ramos, was appointed as the head of PREPA just in February by the new governor. He's only been in office a few months.
And use that time now to sign these contracts.
Right, and before that, there was a woman named Lisa Donahue, who had been the who was the chief restructuring officer of PREPA. She had been brought in about a year and a half earlier to restructure all the debt of PREPA. She never was able to finally get a final deal with the bondholders on PREPA, but yet she walked away in February with $46 million for 18 months of work, her and the other partners in her firm that were brought in to restructure Puerto Rico's debt. $46 million for 18 months of work. This is the kind
And let's remember, PREPA is bankrupt.
Right. It's the firm is bankrupt, but that doesn't mean that there's still not cash coming in. Cash coming in from the rates that utility users are paying, customers are paying. So there's a huge cash flow. The question is, where does the money go? And this example of these contracts now in the midst of this enormous calamity in Puerto Rico is an example of how the money is being wasted. And it's being wasted now supposedly when PREPA is not only under new management, but is also under oversight of the U.S. board, Fiscal Control Board. This kind of money, the Fiscal Control Board also has to approve these kinds of major expenditures.
Well, we're going to go to break and then come back to my conversation with the San Juan mayor, Carmen Yulín Cruz. This is Democracy Now! Again, the FBI is now investigating how this Whitefish deal that the Puerto Rican government says they're in the process of canceling was accomplished. Stay with us.